course.
Uh-oh. Got it.
It's not actually. You have to do
Oh.
this one for the TV. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been having a good turnout. Oh, perfect. Well, here's one right here.
It's right here. Yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
how are you?
Hello.
Good. Hey, ladies. Have fun.
Thank you. If we should wait a minute or not.
Yeah, there's usually at least one more, sometimes, well, two more usually.
Okay.
Still linked you though.
I can wait a couple minutes. We're good. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So how long have you been at KW?
Just since the first part of August.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Another minute or two. So usually one more?
Yeah, at least.
Okay.
Aaron, he sometimes comes late.
That's great. Come late to a party, but never go late to a closing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have no idea if anyone is online because I don't know how we set it up.
Usually there's like below the killer.
Oh, someone will pop up.
Somebody will pop up.
Okay. Cool. Cool, cool. This is going to be you guys in a couple months.
Just take that right home and put it like on your kitchen table or what?
Oh, no, I had that in my office. So I got Agent of the Month and today's my last day.
Oh.
I know. So I had to bring it back. So I had it in my office behind me. So anytime I did Zoom calls with
Oh,
clients,
cool.
they
Yeah.
could see it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So it was like, look, and if everyone's like, is it big enough? Could they get you a bigger one? I'm like, I know, right? If I get it twice, it needs to be double the size.
Right.
That's funny. All right. Looks like Kaylee, welcome, welcome. Perfect. All right, so it is 9:34. I'll wait one more minute. I'd like to start at least by 5 after, that way we can get done. And you guys can go make some money. That's why you're in it, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's helping people and making money. You have to
Yeah.
combine the two. Cute bag.
Oh, thanks. Bought it as a purse and he was like, this is huge. So now I'm gonna use it like for my laptop.
Yep, that's wrong with that.
How long have you been doing this list?
A really long time. I'll do that in my intro.
okay.
Actually, let's go ahead. No, you're good. Let's go ahead and get started. It's 9:35. Kaylee, can you hear me? Hopefully.
Yes.
Perfect. Welcome, welcome. So I am Liz Carter. I have been in the KW Westfield here in Utah for a year. Prior to that, I was in Georgia and I was with KW there. I was at the top 5 producers for the Southeast region for KW in Georgia back there. And so, but my home is Utah. And so I convinced my husband after our 2 kids married and moved out, I was like, let's go home. He was born and raised in Georgia, so it took a little bit of convincing. But then when we got here, he was like, we should have done this 10 years ago. And I just looked at him because we purchased at the height. I mean, right at the height of the market. And I was like, you dog. We could have so much more equity in our house, but that's okay. But the funny thing is I actually got my real estate license in Utah probably 25 years ago. Hey, how are you? Come on in. And so I did real estate here in Utah for a number of years before I got out. I went into high tech and then traveled around the world, ended up in Georgia. And then the last 5 years in Georgia did real estate. And then the last year here did real estate. And I absolutely love it. So welcome, welcome. And so the most important part, how have you guys liked your Ignite class so far? You guys learned a lot?
Yeah.
So Ignite is probably one of my favorite classes. I used to teach Ignite in Georgia as well. And it was just, even agents who have been agents for years and years should always go back and refresh and Ignite, because it's like the name, it just sort of lights a fire and it's like, okay, and you get really cool ideas and you meet a lot of people that are willing to help you. And that's what real estate is actually about. Real estate is about helping other people, because you're helping them with the biggest financial investment that they will ever probably do. And so while you help people, you get to earn money. And one of the things that I have realized, and there was a big national study on it, the most healthy and wealthy people are givers and servers. So those who give and serve are actually the most wealthiest and healthy people in the United States. So I think all real estate agents should be very healthy and very wealthy. So you guys have done all the work. You've gone out, you've got a contractor, I've got a contract. You've either done it with a buyer or a seller in the world of Ignite, right? None of that matters unless it closes. So getting it to the close, I think, is probably one of the most, actually is probably the most important part of the transaction, besides the contract itself. So we're going to go over today, we're going to go over timelines. We're going to go over the best practices, risks, and things to avoid. I'm going to add a few things that aren't in Ignite that's in my toolbox that I learned from Ignite 6 years ago that I've just kept building upon that will help you guys. Referrals and reviews, which is funny because I'm hoping that referrals and reviews they've changed Ignite a little bit since I have done it. Have they talked about referrals and reviews before this a little bit? It should be in every step of your
Yeah. I
process.
don't remember which one it was, but it was earlier.
Yeah, so anytime your clients are happy, hey, remember, tell your friends, I'm happy to help them too,
Yeah.
because referrals are the lifeblood of
I
your,
think it was Dan Kennedy that taught that.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was Dan that taught that.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to talk about post-close follow-ups, recaps, any ahas that you guys have, and then, of course, your daily success habits. So the lovely Gary Keller from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Have you guys all read the Red Book or are reading the Red Book?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's
I'll get into it.
awesome. So it's referred to as the Bible for real estate, and it really is. So it says real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. And it is accurate because in the beginning, so when you're working with buyers or you're working with the sellers, it's really you and your client. And then once you become under contract, it opens it up to the rest of the world. So all of a sudden you have your lenders, sometimes you have attorneys, sometimes you have the title companies, the underwriters, the appraisers, the inspectors. It's when everything starts to really move fast. And it's probably one of the biggest points for both the buyer and the seller where they start to go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And you really have to manage their expectations. Otherwise your deal can go completely haywire. And so you want to make sure that it's where you have all of your attention. So we're going to go, wow, this is weird. So we're going to go ahead and hit timelines. What is going on? There we go. All right. So deadlines in the contract. So you have written your contract. It's your use the contract you've been using previously Ignite. So do you guys have one of your contracts? Have you guys written a contract?
Mm.
No? All right,
This is what this one's doing.
that's okay. All right, so if you haven't written a contract, that's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'll go into it with you right here. All right, so contract timeline. So when you write your contract, do you guys have a sample contract in your Ignite book? Oh, no.
Mhm.
That's all right. Okay. So when you actually write a contract, there's several different dates. You have your contract date, and the contract date on the top of the page is actually the date that you submit the contract to either the buyer or the seller. Or what will you write, it's the day you write the contract and send it over. So on it it'll be like if you wrote a contract today, today's date is August 31st. So your contract date, and this is important, would be because it refers to that in different steps, especially in command, would be the 31st. Now, within that contract, you have an acceptance date. So you gave them, did you guys go over writing contracts? Have you guys done that?
How
This
do
is
we
only
know?
my second one, so I have no idea.
I don't think we have, really.
Yeah.
No?
I mean,
Uh-uh.
Angie kind of touched on that, but not, like, she just was like really high level. Not
Okay.
really anything, like none of the nitty gritty.
None of the nitty gritty?
Is it
Okay,
The
it's the rep C.
the rep sheet? Oh,
Yes,
I practiced.
you practiced on a
Yeah.
rep
You did
C?
the case studies?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
but-
really important to practice on the rep Cs. And if you have any questions at all, make sure you get with your mentor or with Dean. You can call me, whomever you're working with. So when you write your first contract, you want to run it by someone who has written one before. Because your rep Cs that's the glue for the whole piece. And if there's an error in there, it gives someone the option to get out, or it can put you in a huge situation where you're liable, and you don't want that. So on your contract, there's going to be a contract acceptance date. And that date is when, so if you're representing the buyer and you submit a rep C to the listing agent, the contract acceptance date is the day that the sellers sign and say yes. Now, they can send a counter, and that's not contract acceptance. Contract acceptance, if there's a counter, is when whoever does the last counter, whoever is they're countering to. So if the sellers then countered back to your buyers, your contract acceptance date would be when your buyers accepted that counter. Now, it can go back. I've had things go back and forth, 5 or 6 counters. I hate that.
Yeah.
I would rather work with the agent and talk with them and say, where do we need to be, and try to come up with a counter that's going to meet everyone's needs, and send that back and have a clean agreement, just because you can have counter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the biggest key is just communication. But you have to remember, when you're doing things verbally with that agent, it is not a binding contract. So an agent can say, oh yeah, they're going to go ahead and take $5,000 less. So go ahead and put that in your counter, and you can send it over, and those sellers could go, nope, changed my mind, and they can counter back, and you're going to go, but you told me. Don't get too upset at the agent, because you can't control your client. So even though they may have hinted to her or him that they could do that, you're still going to go back and forth. But that contract acceptance date is key. The contract acceptance date is when everything triggers. And what I mean by that is, all of a sudden you have key dates. And so in your contracts, and I'm going to share this with you as well. The day that you go contract acceptance is the day everything triggers. So from that date is when you have to then make sure that you're involving everyone within the contract. And so that's the day that I always send out to my clients, congratulations, you're under contract. Here's a copy of the contract. so that they have it and you know that you have given them the binding contract. And then I list out the key dates. And the key dates for Rep Cs are seller's disclosure. So when the seller has to have the disclosures to them for them to sign. And this is, I'm going to talk about the buy side and then I'm going to talk about the listing side. You have your due diligence deadline. So within the Rep C, you put in there that they have at least 7 to 10 days to do their inspections. And that's all during the due diligence period for your buyer. During that time, your buyer can walk. You have your earnest money when your earnest money is due. It's usually within 3 days of your contract acceptance date, which is your binding. We have earnest here at KW Westfield, which is awesome. So you literally can go into the system and you set it up in earnest. They send your client an email. They can wire transfer the money in. Earnest sends you a receipt that we've received it. You then take that earnest money receipt and you send it to the lender and you send it to the listing agent. So confirmation of receiving the earnest money, and you also give it to your client. So you have to communicate that inside of your email as well. Then you have your finance and appraisal deadline. So you're talking with them about, hey, you know, you've got to get with your lender. You're going to forward your congratulations and key dates email with the contract to their lender to make sure that the lender, you're not relying on your buyer to actually send that contract, because the buyer might think, oh, I'll just send it to him in a couple of days. Well, the lender has to jump on it because there are financing contingencies and appraisal deadlines. So if you have a tight appraisal deadline, they have to get the appraisal ordered right away. If you don't have a tight appraisal deadline, they might be able to wait a week or two, but that all depends on your lender. Do you guys have a really good lender yet?
Yes, except I haven't talked to him. Well, I'm related to him
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
somehow.
get 2. Always have 2. Yep. So always give your clients an option. So when they talk to, when you first do your buyer's consultations, you need to say, okay, who your lender, if they don't have a lender, or even if they've already spoken to a lender, if they haven't signed on that dotted line that they're going to be using that lender, send them your 2. Here's my 2 top that I work with. And I work with them because they always get things to close. I know that I can call them and get the information that I need, blah, blah, blah. Because if they're out doing Quicken Loans or with Rocket Mortgage, your life's going to be hell during a closing transaction because you just can't get a hold of anybody and you're shooting blind. It's like, okay, did they order the appraisal? And you can't, I mean, it really is miserable.
So when you pick a lender, do you just like ask for referrals, like from people in the office?
Mhm.
Do you? Okay.
Yep. So we have a lender that's here inside of the office. They're always really great. I use Security National Mortgage. I have a guy that has closed all of my transactions for me except one. And I know that I can call him and say, hey, we just found a house. It can be Saturday night at 9 o'clock. Just found a house. I need the letter specific to this house that they qualify, my pre-qualification, and he will send everything and I will have it within 15 to 30 minutes. It doesn't matter when. And so you just want to build that relationship with somebody that you know that you can pick up the phone or you can send them a text and they'll get you what you need right
So
away.
let me ask you this. Stephen Eldridge over at First Colony is my brother-in-law.
Okay.
Would you advise against working with family, or does that work in your
If-
advantage?
If he's
think
great
he's-
to work
I think
with,
he's fantastic to work with. I'm
yes, then
yeah.
that's fine, but you have to just disclose it. That's all.
that he's my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they find out later in the
Yeah,
process, they're gonna be
and
like,
Shady.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But as long as you're upfront,
Mm,
it's not a big deal.
So we have to be upfront because the person that I know the most, he's like, it's my husband's
Uh-huh.
aunt's brother. What do I?
I would just say, I'd just say he's a distant relative or whatever, but I've worked with them. I just always always cover your rear end in real estate. Because if someone finds something out in the back end and they feel like anything has gone wrong, and they're just like, well, she didn't tell me that they were related and I had a bad experience, and
Oh, yeah.
you just don't want that. You just want to be upfront, and you want to check in with them during this whole contract to close process. You should be checking in with your buyer at least once a week, minimum. How you feeling? What's going on with your lender? Even if it's your lender, what's going on? Is there any improvements that lender can provide for you? Let them voice any frustration with their underwriters, whenever then you take that back to your lender and you say, hey, this is my client that I've brought you. Because you're bringing, that's their bread and butter too. You're bringing them business. Here's their feedback. I need you to correct this. And they will. But if you don't get that feedback and it just sort of stirs, once you get to closing, they may say, hey, you were great, but your lender just was horrible. And that's on you because you referred the lender. Right? But so that's your first stage, is you got to get that contract to the lender. And so they can start their process. The other big thing, especially when you're working with a buyer, is make sure you remind them, hey, congratulations, you're under contract. That also means don't spend any money you don't have to. If you have to make a big purchase, you get it approved by your lender. Do not open any credit cards. Do not close any credit cards. Do not do any credit inquiries. Because within that 30 days, that lender or underwriter, depending upon how strong a buyer they are, and you don't know because you don't see their financials, they could pull their credit 10 minutes before closing. Mhm. And if something's changed, their interest rate could change, or they could deny the loan. And that has happened to agents. Mhm. So if they go, oh my gosh, I just found the perfect couch and entertainment center for my new house. I went ahead and bought it. Oh crap. I always tell my buyers, if you find that perfect couch, ask a parent or a friend to buy it for you and then pay them back after closing. And I don't want to know about it. The lender doesn't want to know about it. Just do your own thing, but do not touch your credit
Is
and
that
don't
something
jeopardize.
that you verbally say to them, or is that in that letter?
So
both?
it's both. I
Okay.
verbally send it to them.
Yeah.
And then I also, in my email, I actually write, please remember to not purchase anything big or open or close any credit accounts until after you close on your new home. If you do, it can impact your interest rate.
Okay.
So I always put it in there in writing as well, so that I can say, look, I told you.
Yeah.
Please don't mess this up.
Yeah.
Because it's all of your hard work too.
Yeah.
And they get tied to a house, and if something happens at closing and they can't get that house, it doesn't matter how great you were. They're just like, "Ah," and it's really hard to get them happy again. You don't want to run into that problem. And then I talk about financing. I talk about the earnest money, and it says, and this is an example of just one of mine that I closed 2 months ago. I said, earnest money, I'll be sending you a request for $10,000 earnest money today via earnest. It will be held in escrow for you and applied to your purchase. That's all you have to say. And then earnest does the rest for you. And then the next thing is home inspection. So if you looked up there, you have contract acceptance and then inspection period. Your inspection period, if you've gone under contract for say on the 2nd of September, your inspection period is going to end on the 13th, which means you need to give them and recommend to them home inspection. So within that home inspection is when you want to get with your home inspector and say, okay, our inspection period ends on 9/13. That means you want that inspection done no later than the 11th. So that on the night of the 11th, and that's no later than. So I would even say, if you can get your inspection done by the 5th or 6th, that gives you a window to be able to negotiate, because if there's anything in that inspection that is a deal breaker, you want to be able to get them out within their due diligence period, Or you're back to negotiations with with the sellers to be able to say, okay, we're gonna move forward. However, you need to just fix the broken main line water that's coming into the house that the inspectors found that has a crack and is leaking. And that's why you have this big puddle in your front yard that you thought you had a broken sprinkler line. You don't, you have a broken water main,
Or
Right.
broken sewer.
right? Or broken
See
sewer.
that news, that story in the news also
There's a
about
bunch of them.
family in Riverdale. He had 4 people's houses go up. They moved in a month ago, come up in their basement into their
Oh my
master.
gosh.
And because of like the clog is like up further, but it's 4 families that share a line. And they have evidence that the people that sold them the house
Knew
but
about it?
didn't disclose.
Oh my
Yeah, so they're liable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing with inspections, why you always want an inspection. So in real estate, when you're the listing agent and you know something is defective on that house, you have to advise your client. You have to disclose on those sellers' disclosure that defect.
What if they don't? Do you then disclose it?
You
So
have to
walk
tell,
away?
you have to tell them, you have to disclose this. We know about it, you legally have to disclose. If they don't disclose it, I go back, because I had a seller do this who left it blank. I went back and I said, you need to change this. What you're doing, if you don't disclose, is fraud and they can sue you. So you're gonna lose a lot more money at the end than in the beginning. And so he went ahead and he disclosed. I've only had that happen to me once where my seller was sort of shady. And I was like, oh, great. I didn't think you were shady and you're shady.
Mhm.
So that just made me just, everything was double. But what an inspection does from the buyer's agent, which is pretty cool. So once you have that and you say, okay, we have a problem with the sewer line. I always write in my, it's an addendum that you do that says, okay, here's here's the items of concern that we want you to address. I reference the inspection report and I send that inspection report to that listing agent with my address concerns addendum. Because then, guess what? Now they know. So you know the listing agent knows, and you know that the seller now knows. And so if they want to say, no, we're not going to fix it, my comment back is always, oh, that's too bad. Because if we back out, you know you have to disclose that to your next buyer. And they're going to ask for it too. So do you want to go back and have to remarket your house when you have a good contract and we're already gone through underwriting and time for negotiations goes on, right?
Yeah.
And then in that amendment to address concerns as well, you all don't ever just say seller to address this and fix it. You always say, so if it was plumbing, seller to address specific plumbing issue by a licensed plumbing contractor and supply the buyers with the invoice from the licensed plumber, contractor,
Mhm.
so that it's nothing shady again, where the seller has gone in, the seller has gone in and fixed something himself,
Yeah,
then there's no recourse.
Yeah.
That can be really sketchy. Or an electrical problem. Oh, I just went ahead and fixed it. Well, you went ahead and fixed it. Was it something as simple as a light switch, which you probably wouldn't put on your address concerns? But, oh, you put in a new panel,
yeah.
right? You want a licensed
Yeah.
person to do that, and you want an invoice proving that that has been done. And you're going to put those things inside your amendments to address concerns. So that's really important as well. So that all happens during the inspection period and the period ending. And then on this one, it says the example they're giving is October 2nd is closing. So between that as well, so you've got your home inspection going on. At the same time, you've then recommended a title company as well. So we do Real Advantage and InWest Title are the two ones that most people use here at KW. They're great. They are totally awesome. They'll send out email reminders and everything else. Don't rely on those email reminders on key dates from your title company. Because if they've got entered in something wrong or whatever else, you have to also stay on top of that title company to make sure that they have all of that as well. And so I let them know, hey, you're going to receive an email. I use InWest Title from InWest Title. They'll coordinate with Security National Mortgage, who's your loan guy as well, or whoever your lender is, and the sellers for a smooth closing. They're a great title company. And so I just let them know, here's everyone who's going to be contacting you. Because once you go under contract as well, for some reason, somehow they're all of a sudden going to get contacted by a bunch of people. You don't want them responding to people that they shouldn't be responding to. And so I always tell them as well, if you have a question about anything, call me. I will verify the information who you're supposed to be giving it to. So that's really important. And then I always put those key dates. So here's what you're going to accept. You have your seller's disclosure deadline, you have your due diligence deadline, financing and appraisal deadline, and then our settlement deadline. If possession is different, you need to let them know about possession as well. And then if there's anything else, like these guys, I was selling their house. We hadn't put it on the market yet. So I said, hey, I'm going to be there tomorrow for pictures on your house. So I'll let you guys, I'll pass this around and you guys can sort of take a look at that. On the seller side, it's not as much work as far as on the buyer side, because the seller really, they just have to know the key dates. They have to know when the inspector is going to come, and they need to know when the appraiser is going to come. That's really it. So on the binding contract on a seller side, it's always a little bit easier. It's always like, hey, congratulations. We have a binding contract. Here's the purchase price. And I always sort of just go over, here's key things in the contract. Here's the purchase price. Here's your key dates. Seller's disclosure 6/3. However, we want to, get this in before the inspection. So send it to me today. If you haven't got them already, the due diligence, like on this one was 610, but we had a 5K earnest money hard, so I put that in there. Here's your financing and appraisal deadline and our settlement date. So this is the seller's information. And once again, this also acts as proof of you sent that binding contract, you've sent all this information. So you guys can take a look at that and make a copy or whatever you want to do with that. So we only have 5 people. We lost somebody, but that's okay. So, you're on call. Oh, cool. Okay. Welcome. Sorry. Your picture wasn't on there, just your name. So welcome to the class. All right. So let's recap really quickly. Who's involved in your transaction? So from a buyer standpoint, when you go under contract, so you guys need to know this, even if you have a transaction coordinator.
So there's the lender.
Yep.
And the title company.
Yep.
And the home inspector.
Yep.
And
Listing agent.
listing agent.
Mhm.
Him.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Escrow? Or is that with the title company?
That's the earnest money
The
part
earnest
as well.
money,
Uh-huh.
okay.
So you can either do earnest or they can give you a check and you bring it in.
But it's better to be earnest.
It's better to do earnest than you have receipts and everything
cleaner.
else. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but the most important thing is communication. Because all of your work, if it doesn't get to close, you don't get paid. And no one reimburses you for your time and efforts to get to that point. So, we're not getting paid hourly. So you want to make sure that your contract to close is really smooth. So let's brainstorm really quickly. So from everything I've talked about, what's the first thing that you guys need to do once you go into contract?
Contact the lender.
Nope, first thing,
Oh, send them.
send them the contract and the key dates with a big reminder of Do not go out and buy anything. Do not change any credit cards. Do not open up any credit cards. Don't screw the deal. Go ahead.
In this situation, you like, so then you just call me like,
Mhm.
hey, you're on your contract. And
I do.
then You just tell them, I sent you an email. Here's what needs to be done.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I do is I send them the email. So if it's late at night, because sometimes you'll get an acceptance at 10 o'clock, whatever, I'm not going to call my people at 10 o'clock. I will send the email and I'll send a text and go, just sent you an email. Would love to talk to you about it tomorrow. Because I don't want to talk to them after 10 o'clock either.
Right.
Even if they're awake, I don't want to talk to them. I mean, I have boundaries. I try to end my work by at least 7 or 8 because I sort of have a life,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, and I want to stay married.
Always
Right?
important, yes.
And if you open yourself up with your clients that you're available 24/7,
I'll take advantage.
they will take
Yeah.
advantage of that. And you are a professional, you have a license, you take continuing education, just like doctors and lawyers and everything else. You have to sort of set your boundaries and stuff. There's nothing in real estate that is a complete emergency that you have to respond to at 10 o'clock at night unless someone's house is on fire, right?
In which case, call the fire department, not you.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I've been in showings where we have been walking around, we walk into the basement and literally their water heater had just exploded and was flooding. So it's like, okay, this is an emergency and I'll get a hold of whoever I need to get a hold of, even if it's late. So there are some times where, yeah, there's an emergency, but it's very rare. It's really, really rare. And if you ever get into that situation, make sure you take a picture of it and utilize it on social media. I know it sounds horrible, but it's true. People always go, oh my gosh, you get a lot of engagement on emergencies. So you send this out, that same email, just forward with attachments to your lender. You can also forward it to your title company. So if you want to, I usually for the title company, I'll do a separate email and say, here's everything. So here's for the title company, I let them know, here's the listing agent. Here's the lender, here's the contact information for the lender and all that, so that the title company has all that information. I give them all the buyer's information, I give them the contract and all that, so that they can start the wheels turning and going as well. And that's on the buyer side. Now, on the seller side, it's a little bit different, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So any other questions on sort of what's going on the buyer side between contract and close? And then you always want to go to a closing. Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
I think people, don't they expect you to be there?
Yeah, but some agents don't go.
Really?
It's really surprising. Mhm. But you want to go to a closing. You really want to do. And then one of the big things too, and no one will tell you this, and I will, do something for yourself on that closing day after it closes. So what I used to do, because I don't do it here for some reason, so when I was in Georgia, right next to the title company was Chick-fil-A. And so oh no, you're good. So after every closing, I would go in and get one of those huge lemonades from Chick-fil-A.
Mhm.
And it was just my thing. And I would take a picture of it and go, ha, another closing today, on top of the pictures that I did with my clients. Just because it was like, okay, a small reward for me. And I always knew, hey, if I was gonna go get one of those big lemonades, it was like, woohoo, it's a present to myself.
So what do you
Do that. Here, I go get a big ice cream cone. I usually go to the barn. I try to go to the barn every once in a while. I don't make it down there. And then I know I still owe myself that big ice cream cone. So whatever it is, just reward yourself. It doesn't have to be anything big, just something little, a pat on your back of, hey, I've done this. I got it to close. Everyone's happy, and just acknowledge it. So, because what you've done is worth celebrating. I mean, it really is more so than just the commission check, because you just helped someone with a huge process and getting a house. So it's awesome. All right. So we're going to go next time. All right. Timeline. What are the first thing my buyer needs? They need this letter to know what they need to do.
Right.
right? So what do the buyer need to know and do? They need to know that they need to be in constant contact with their lender. If their lender is asking them for something for their underwriter, they need to get it to them within 24 hours. I sort of recap that expectation for my lenders. They need to contact the inspector. That's all in that letter. What does the rest of the team, the co-op agent, the inspectors, lenders need to know, take action on, and when? So I always go back to and refer back to that email. So my co-agent is that listing agent. They need to know, hey, I've already sent everything to the lender. I copy them on my title request as well, so that they are aware of who we're using. So Utah's a little bit different from Georgia. In Georgia, everyone closed together at a attorney's office. Here, everyone closes, the buyer closes at one title company, your seller can close at a different title company, and they're not together. So you just want to make sure that you've let the listing agent know, here's my title company, here's who we're using, so that they let their title company know who they're using, because they have to coordinate. So if you have a domino transaction and you know it, I highly suggest you trying to use the same title company.
What's a domino transaction?
Domino is they're selling their house and buying the same day. So it's a domino effect. So I've had 4 transactions in a row in one day for one person where they sold, bought, and sold. And so I wanted to make sure I had it all with the same title company, because all the money was at their title company, and then I wasn't waiting for wires to come in. And I knew that one person had a viewpoint on all of it. So if you're doing domino transactions, which you'll do eventually, make sure or try to at least use the same title company.
Quick question to go back.
Yep.
Do you contact the inspector, or is that the title company that does that?
The buyer does.
The buyer contacts the
Yes,
inspector?
the buyer does. And so the reason being is when they schedule that, that's a contract between the buyer and the inspector. So you want to be a part of that, but you're not in the middle of it.
So you just give them a reference for an inspector?
So I give them two inspectors. I always give 2, and I have them call, and they will set up the appointment, and I tell them, make sure that you tell the inspector that I am the agent. That inspector then will call me and say, okay, we're scheduled for this date. And so then I manage it from that point. But that also allows the inspector to send over the invoice so that the buyer can pay for their inspection. You're not paying for the inspection. So that's all through them, and then there's no surprises. So that's the whole inspection report, and everything else will go then directly to the buyer, and that inspector will send you a copy of it, a link as well.
Okay.
So,
So buyer pays for it.
yep, your buyer pays for the inspector. Yep. So the next thing
But
is,
that's in the closing settlement statement too, right? It's not a,
mm-mm,
oh, you mean he has to pay upfront?
Mhm.
Before.
inspections are prior to closing. They don't have anything to do
Oh,
with the
okay.
closing.
Oh, okay.
So this is everything to do before you walk into that closing.
Oh,
And
okay.
so during that due diligence period on the timeline, from your contract acceptance date to your due diligence date, you want that inspection done as soon as possible in case you have to address concerns. And then you've got room to
Oh, okay.
negotiate.
So they pay out of pocket then?
Yep. So let me ask you guys a question. Here's a scenario. The inspection came back, it was awesome. You have no concerns. Your contract rate was September 2nd. Your due diligence doesn't end until the 13th. Your inspection came back on the 6th. There's nothing. Do you call the agent and say, we don't have any concerns, we're going to go ahead and drop the due diligence period?
No.
Nope. Because something else might come up for that buyer. And so you never waive your due diligence period.
Oh, no.
That is a protection for your buyers. Listing agents love it when you do. Because your earnest money goes hard, right? If anything happens, don't waive.
No floor in the house.
Yeah, I mean, if something happens.
You waived your,
Yeah, you waived your inspection. So always get an inspection, but then always make sure you're working with your lenders and your title company and You want a good relationship as well with your co-op agent as much as possible. Now, you're going to run into some agents that are hard to work with. Kill them with kindness. That's all I can say. Extra communication and kill them with kindness and document, document, document. And what I mean by that is everything's in writing. You send the email so you have everything. Once you go under contract, here's another tricky thing that isn't Ignite, but you guys need to know this. Once you go under contract, make sure you go into the MLS system and you print out that MLS sheet. If it says that you're getting 3%, you are to get 3%. There are agents out there who will go out there and change it to 2.5 after you're under contract. And then you have to prove that when you sent in the contract on the date of contract acceptance, that it was 3. So
So
Oh, wow.
low.
exactly.
They
Wow.
will do that. Is
Uh-huh.
that legal?
It's no, they're not supposed to. They'll get fined,
Oh,
but you have to be able to prove it. So that's the other reason why in command, they ask you for the MLS sheet for verification, and that's to protect you. And never be that agent. Because that will follow you around forever.
yeah.
Let's see, what am I doing at each point to bulletproof the transaction and set myself and my buyers up for a successful close? What do you guys think?
Communication. talk to
Communicate.
them.
And document.
Mhm.
Document everything. Yep. Check in with your lender. I send my lender, even though I love him to death and he closes all my transaction. Hey, Dave, what's going on with the Coles? Are we good? And he'll respond, yes, we are. Okay. Or he'll
Just,
respond,
Email or text? Or
I email it.
You-
I email it. And then he sends me, he's also really good. They send me updates, just went through underwriting. Appraisals come back, everything. A good lender will keep you updated. I then turn around and use that as a touch point for my buyers. Hey, just found out your appraisal came back. Hey, just found out that you're through underwriting. That also lets the buyers know, okay, my agent is totally on top of it.
Yeah, she's taking care of me.
Mhm. And then I send to the co-op agent, hey, just to let you know, appraisal came back. You don't have the right to tell them what the appraisal came back at unless it comes under,
Oh,
because that appraisal is the property of the buyer. They paid for
so
it,
you can't tell them what the price came in
not unless you have permission. So what happens if you sell a house for $1 million? It was listed at $1 million. You sell it for $1 million. The appraisal comes back at 1.3. Awesome for your buyers, right? You call and say, hey, want to let you know the appraisal came back. Oh, a good listing agent's going to ask, oh, what did it come back at?
What do you
Oh, 1.3. Oh, really? She goes back and tells her sellers, wow, your appraisal came back at 1.3. Let's not sell it. Let's wait.
No, but the
Put it back
listing
on the
agent can
market.
do that,
Yeah,
but not the selling agent.
correct. But no, the selling agent should have never told them that it was 1.3.
Who did the selling agent tell?
Who did the selling agent tell when they found out? The sellers.
think? They do the seller.
So now the seller doesn't want to close the transaction. Let's renegotiate.
So when they ask you, what
Well,
do
why
you
would they
say?
tell them the sellers? Because they represent the buyer. don't
No, your buyer's agent should have never told the seller's agent. So the buyer is the one who is paying for the appraisal. And so the buyer's agent should never tell anything to the listing agent, the seller's agent, that the buyer's agent hasn't said yes to, or that could put the deal in jeopardy.
So when the listing agent says, well, what did it come back as?
Sorry, I don't have permission to say that, but we're good to go.
Okay.
That's it.
So what if it comes in under? would that
If
be
it comes
where you-
in under, yes, that's negotiate. So within the REPSI, you would have already put, if it comes under that, you restart negotiations and the lender can require that the contract be dropped to that. So that's part of the appraisal contingency. So that's all part of negotiation again. So if it comes in under, you want to go back and go, hey, it came in under, we need to reduce the price to X. Now, when the market was hot with multiple offers, everyone was waiving the appraisal contingency. So if it came in low, your buyers were paying that difference.
So crazy.
Yeah, but But that's how you won
Yeah.
contracts, and
Yeah.
most of the appraisals came in okay. You usually didn't have to worry about it. But now that the market has settled, you don't want to, if you're not in a multi-bid situation, don't waive your appraisal contingency because you can get that price dropped
Yeah.
for your buyers.
I'm still confused about this.
That's okay.
I don't get it quite. So you're saying, okay, we have a seller, we have a seller's agent, we have a buyer, we have a buyer's agent.
So
Right.
right now, we're in the buyer scenario. So right now,
The
you
buyer.
are the buyer's agent.
Okay, and the buyer's agent, okay.
Yep.
So I get an appraisal come back 1.3.
Mhm.
And of course, I can't tell anybody that. So
You can't tell the listing agent. All you can say to the listing agent is our appraisals come back, we're good to go.
Okay, so.
And if the listing agent says, what did it come back at?
Mhm.
I don't have the authority to give you that
Okay.
information.
So
That's it,
that's it then. I can't tell the listing agent,
right?
hey, you're missing out on 0.3. You know,
If you tell them that they're missing out on 0.3, your buyer should sue you.
okay. No,
Because you are supposed to represent the buyers.
I'm glad you are bringing this up now because that would be a costly error.
Yeah, a huge costly error, exactly. So that's, everything is you just really want to make sure the whole time is, am I doing what's best for my buyers?
Yeah,
And that's it. You just want to protect
So-
your buyers.
the buyer gets the appraisal, right?
Uh-huh.
Does he pay for it before the closing?
It depends. Some lenders will require the payment of the appraisal before it's done. Some lenders put that into their settlement costs and it's paid at closing. It all depends on the lender. So I've had lenders do both. My
So-
lender does everything at settlement.
So I'm the seller with the seller's agent, and I sold it for $1 million. I found out later, I don't know if the county reports the sales price, but
You'd
On
never
transactions.
find out.
You'd never find out.
The appraisal never gets disclosed.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about
It's
that.
just a big asset for the buyer's agent.
It's a huge asset for the buyer's agent. Mhm.
And you make sure you let your clients know that you're saving them that much.
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for instance, in the hot market that just took place,
Yeah.
I sold a home over in Lehigh. And the buyers were we waived the appraisal and I said, don't worry about it. And they're just like, Liz, we're paying 700K for this house. I said, don't worry about it. Your appraisal is gonna come in higher. I said, I can't guarantee that. And I made sure to tell them, I said, it could come in lower, but my feeling, because of the comps that I have, you should be okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, the appraisal came in at 800.
Oh, okay.
And I told the buyers and they were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm like, exactly. And don't say anything because they have a backup offer.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down that road and we don't want to run into hiccups. We're not telling the listing agent. We're not telling them at closing. You're not going to talk to them even afterwards. You just know in your back pocket, you got a great deal. And they were tickled pink.
And then tell your friends how I got you a great deal.
Exactly. Send me 3 friends.
Something that Carl Spencer said is like, people naturally, when you do something and you do something for someone, they naturally have a tendency to like give you an IOU, like they
Yeah.
keep you in the back of your head. I feel like that's why he does such good business, but you
Yep.
do something like that feels so drastic, which really isn't, and that will return back to you.
Oh, yeah, big time. And that's huge on referrals. So anytime the appraisals come in higher, I'm always like, you have instant equity, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So, and it is,
Yeah.
right? Especially in this market. It's very cool. So that's the big thing on the buyers.
Brought that up.
All right, so now we're gonna go to, yeah, so this is the rest of the buyer timeline. So we did the inspection. We've done the earnest money. We've informed the listing agent of the inspection. We've negotiated any of the inspection response, right? In between the inspection, this isn't on here, and the final walkthrough, you want to make sure that the title company will always give them a list of utilities at closing. However, that's too late, guys. You should request from the listing agent, once everything is past due diligence, right after that date, hey, listing agent, can you get me the list of service providers for that house so that we can make sure that we have changed utilities over by the date of possession? Not date of closing, date of possession. And so I would add that into your timeline. So, and then you're gonna go to your buyers and go, hey, we are home free. You guys are, we're set, we're past our due diligence, we're moving forward. I know you guys are good with your lender. So here is the list of utility companies. Go ahead and make that call, because if they're calling on the day of closing, service providers are horrible.
Mhm.
And there have been many a time where someone will go, oh my gosh, the electricity got turned off. What did you call? Oh, I forgot. Make sure you did just check on that. Hey, and it's another touch point. And it's just another benefit that you're giving them. If you have a transaction coordinator that is working for you on your closing, just make sure that they're doing that. And make sure if you're using a transaction coordinator for all this, that they are copying you on everything and you are responding to all. Hey, thanks for the information, guys. If you have any questions on this, call me. You don't want your buyers to feel like if you're using a transaction coordinator that you have been handed off. You want them to think that you are still totally engaged. Even if all of the background paperwork is being taken care of for you, you want them to know, I know exactly what's going on and I'm here and I can answer any of your questions.
Well, what do they usually charge? Is that in the closing or settlement? The transaction? How much do they
That's
charge?
yours. It's
You
not,
pay that
you
out
pay that
of
out of
pocket.
pocket.
Oh, that's for real.
That's for the realtor expense. And that's something that you negotiate with a transaction coordinator
Oh, okay.
and you pay for that.
Okay.
Then you want to set up your final walkthrough. You want to walk through the house and make sure it is in the same condition as it was at the end of your due diligence period, or when you walked through the house originally, at least, 24 hours before closing or 12 hours before closing, depending upon when you're doing that. And then you go to closing. Now, after closing, it's really important to remember with you, just because you close doesn't mean you're going to get paid. You have to make sure that all of your forms and all of your contracts and everything are uploaded in Command. And then you also have to, there's a acknowledgement form that is now, you have to upload in Command that says what you have provided to your buyers or to your sellers. I don't send that to my buyers for signature. It asks for it. What I do, because it's a laundry list of all the forms, I don't want to have to explain to my buyers, I didn't have to give you this form, this form, this form, this form. I just had to give you this one and this one. That's why you're initialing it. I send it to myself. I initial every one that I've sent them. And then I put a note on it that says, I have emails acknowledgement of everyone I've sent above. And so if they want to come back and audit me, I've got it. My email's in there and I don't have to send that form to my buyer and answer any questions. It's just a acknowledgement of receipt. And that has to be uploaded in Command when you submit to be paid. And the title company is awesome. They wire your money to the office. The office will get you paid. If you set up for wires, all of a sudden money's in your account. It's awesome. So any questions on buyer timeline? So if you were just looking at the bottom one, 9.2 and 10.2, it looks like there's not a lot to do, right? There's a ton to do between contract acceptance and closing. But it's totally manageable as long as you've sort of outlined it. If you outline it and have your processes in place, your contracts are going to go really smoothly. And you want this anyway, even if you have a transaction coordinator, you want that process to make sure that your transaction coordinator is following your process so that you are covered. So that is the,
Wait, can you go back to that, please? Sorry.
yes, that's okay. Let's see if I can.
Probably confuse you then. They're buyer with all those documents anyway.
Mhm.
Make them afraid. None of those
Where
documents are in the closing, right? Just. the
Yeah,
settlements
just the
is-
settlement statements. And that's the other thing. So 24 hours before, you need to make sure that your title company has gotten you your settlement statement, a draft settlement statement, and reviewed that, and you've reviewed it with your buyer so that they don't have any surprises. and they've wire transferred their down payment to the title company. And that they have called the title company to verify the wiring instructions. The title company will go through that with you guys too,
How long before?
at least 24 hours. Mhm. I like to make sure that my buyers have wired within 48 hours, actually, because I don't want any, I always do 2 days, 48 hours.
Not wired? What?
Wire their down
Funds?
payment to the title company. I don't want any questions or any bank saying, oh, I don't know where the wire is. You ready? Can I go back?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. There we go. Interaction and communication points. We've gone over this. So communication of deadlines, communication of contract to the other parties, such as the title, your lender, your inspectors, as well as the listing agent. Lender and buyer communication, make sure that that is taking place. Communication of a list or list of recommendation of title companies, that's all going to be in that first letter you send. Scheduling communication with inspectors and listing agent. Sending, the inspectors, when they go, they'll tell them the buyers can be there the last 30 minutes. You want to be there with your buyers to go over that inspection report in the house. A good inspector will also show them where the water turnoff is, where the main panel is. We'll point out any concerns and do that, which is a huge benefit for you. Making sure that you're sending all the amendments, all of that stuff. So additional questions to ask yourself. What am I reminding the buyers on big purchases? You've already done that in the email and when they went under contract. When am I communicating when to set up the utilities? We just talked about it and how to do it. You guys got that under control as well. Am I communicating notice of any holidays that may delay the process? So when you're writing your contracts, you should be aware of holidays. Your title companies and your lenders will not close on holiday for you. The banks aren't open for holidays, so you can't get the wire transferred. How do I negotiate the inspection report and when I am communicating this information? Like I said, on those inspection reports to address concerns, make sure that you're asking for a certified contractor, licensed contractor to do that work. And the invoice is from that licensed contractor. So you have verification. So you're just not having a seller have their brother-in-law or whatever do it for them. When do I touch base with the lender? Constantly. You should be in constant communication with everybody, at least once a week.
So they do an inspection.
Uh-huh.
Tongue twister, and like the AC is broken, is that when you would include that to the seller and ask them to repair that? And then if
Yep.
they don't, but that could just be a deal breaker.
That can be a deal breaker. Yep, absolutely. And that's when you remind the listing agent, well, great, except you do know that you have to now disclose this to any future buyers. I tell them outright, you do know that you now have to disclose because you've given them the inspection report and it's a system flaw in the house. So use that to your advantage in negotiation. Already did that one. All right, so documentation points. Is this an act of communication or a document? So that's important to remember. So if you have, is addressing concerns verbally or is it an amendment? It's part of the contract. It's an amendment. Everyone has to sign it. Sellers have to agree to it. To whom or from whom is the document going to? Once it's signed, it goes to all parties. It goes to the title company, it goes to the lender, it goes to the buyer. Everybody gets a copy of it. What's the best way to communicate those documents? Email, phone, text, or DocuSign. So within Command, you guys have access for free for DocuSign. It's really easy. You also, through the MLS, have another system in there that's really easy. There's several different electronic signature platforms that you can use. DocuSign integrates right into Command and is really easy to use. I always, even though DocuSign sends them a thing saying you've signed it and here's your copy, I always send them, here's the binding with everyone's signatures. And then I send it to the lender and to the title company, and you're good. And make sure you've uploaded that into Command. What is the plan for follow-up after a document has been sent to the responsible party? I send a text, hey, FYI, I just sent you the amendment that for your records. That's all I say.
That DocuSign helps you save a lot of paperwork, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does, but I send it anyways. I always want proof that
Oh, for
I
sure.
sent it.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people will see something from DocuSign and they think that, or it'll go into their spam. So, and then at the end of the transaction, when you have to say confirm receipt, it's hard to go through DocuSign and prove that DocuSign sent it versus me showing my email in my sandbox. It's really easy. And just carbon copy yourself and put it in your folder. So that's really easy. So are there templates for this that I can use or create to save effort, streamline communication across transactions? Yes, it's all in command. Use command. So there's that. There's the buyer timeline again. And you guys are good to go on the buyer. So seller's transaction. Let's go into the seller. Where'd my phone go? There we go, we're good. All right, so the seller transaction I showed you guys on this side. When you take a listing, the first thing that you should do is decide with your seller, say, hey, I work with in West Title or I work with Real Advantage Title. Do you mind if we close with them? Get the buy off ahead of time when you take the listing, because once you take the listing, you're gonna send that instantly to the title company and say, hey, I have a listing. We're gonna close with you. And so they're gonna start the title process. Why do you think you do that?
There's a problem.
Bingo. They might have a tax lien. I have one right now. It's $1 million lot up in North Salt Lake. I sent her the listing and she responded back to me 2 days later and said, Liz, there is a $500,000 IRS lien against this lot.
Oh,
Seller didn't disclose that to me. That means I have to have a minimum of 45-day closing because I have to request from the IRS the payoff and they're not fast.
mm,
And so now I know in my negotiations with the buyer, I have to have a certain closing period. Otherwise, we can't close and the seller's in default. And because I know that, I have to protect my seller. And I notified my seller. Did you know? He goes, oh, I thought it was on another lot. He didn't even know.
oh gosh.
Mhm. I'm like, oh, no, it's on this one. And so that's why you want to start that title process right when you take the listing to make sure that there's no huge liens against that property, or it might be tied up in a divorce settlement.
So
There's-
nobody got hurt on that?
No.
Oh, that's
No, we're
Good thing, the title company called you, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's why you do that. Your partners are there to protect you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest part, is to get that title work started on that process.
So are they still gonna sell the lot?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep, he wants to pay off that lien before they garnish the
Well, I
wages.
think he can
He's a big
afford it
doctor.
if
He
has
can
a lot
afford
of
it.
Equity.
He can afford it. He just wants to let it happen by itself. So it's the same thing here on the that you guys are gonna do. Create yourself a template. Congratulations, here's your binding contract. Right? Here's your key dates. So I tell them their purchase price, here's your key dates. Your seller's disclosure is by this date. So let's go to the next slide where it probably has it.
That's a binding contract?
Well, this is my email that I send them
Oh.
with a
with the
copy
binding
of the
contract.
binding
Oh,
contract.
okay, sorry.
Yep. So what's the first thing that my seller needs? My seller needs a copy of the binding contract. What does the seller need to know and do? He needs to make sure, or she needs to make sure that the house stays in showing order as it is when they showed it up through due diligence. So they want, when the inspector comes, the house still needs to be clean. When the appraisal comes, if possible, they need to keep it. There are times when, once they go under contract in their due diligence period, if the appraisal hasn't come, that appraiser might walk into a house that's full of boxes. And that's okay. Appraisers are used to that, but you want your sellers to keep their house in showing order through due diligence in case anything happens, because the last thing you want to do is restage a house. If you've staged it. That's not fun. They also need to know what title company, but you've already gone over that with them. So the title company is going to go ahead and reach out to them as well and get their loan payoffs for their mortgages and or anything else that they have on the property. And then making sure that the buyer agent knows that they need to let you know when the inspection is. As the listing agent, are you contacting the lender of the buyer?
Yes.
Yes. How often?
I don't know, a couple of times
Weekly,
weekly.
once a week at least, you should be calling that lender. Hey, can you give me an update? Because you're not on the update list for that lender. You want to get on that update list for the lender. And if you call them at least once a week, sometimes they'll add you, sometimes they won't. But you need to make sure, because you represent the seller, is that loan going through? I'm going to give you a prime example. And I totally hosed myself and should not have done this. I trusted the agent. I don't speak well enough Spanish. The buyers were Spanish. The lender was Spanish as well, and only Spanish speaking. He did not speak English. So when I called and talked to him, it was a really hard conversation. And so when I called the buyer's agent back, I said, hey, I'm having a really hard time understanding your lender. He says everything is going. She goes, I'll keep you updated. Should not have trusted the agent. And I thought, not a big deal. I don't speak Spanish. He told me it was going well. It's already gone through underwriting. I should be fine. Lender dropped the ball. We had a delay in closing of a week. It was my fault. And I told my seller, I said, I am so sorry. I said, I did not contact that lender every week because I couldn't, and it was okay. It worked out fine, but I ate it. And my seller appreciated that I owned up to the mistake. But don't make that mistake. And I told the agent, I said, please don't ever bring another contract to one of my listings because you lied to me. And she's like, I know I did. I'm so sorry. I'm like, you made me look bad with my seller and you lied. I mean, she lied to me every week. She told me, here's the update. It wasn't the update.
So
She
don't-
knew.
She knew it was going to be a delay and that there was going to be an issue. She didn't tell me. I was relying on her instead of the lender because I couldn't speak Spanish. I should have, what should I have done?
Find somebody
You
that
mean the
speaks
lender?
Spanish.
Exactly.
Don't-
I should have found someone here in the office that speaks Spanish and said, hey, do me a favor. Yeah, I'll pay you $20.
Yeah.
Call and get the update on this lender.
Oh, I cannot believe a lender that does not speak English. Is that possible?
Absolutely. There's lots of lenders out there that
Oh.
do just Hispanic
Well,
loans.
Lesson learned then.
Big lesson learned for
You
me.
can't rely on the agent. The other
Right.
agent.
And I just thought, oh, this agent's so nice.
But she probably was nice.
Not if you lie.
Right
Right up until she lied to me.
Yeah.
Exactly. So don't do that to yourself, like I did.
Well, you trust people, and you think, well, she'll do
Yeah.
what she said.
It's true. Let's see. So what does the rest of the team need to know? Your co-op agent needs to know that you're calling the lender. When your inspector, who the inspector is, talk to the lenders, all of that. What am I doing at each point to bulletproof the transaction and set myself and my seller up for a successful close? You guys can answer this one.
Somebody else say something. Well, you're always in communication with your buyer or we're the seller now.
Yep,
With your seller and with the buyer's lender
yep,
to just make sure that it's all about communication.
yep,
Just to make sure everything is going the way it should.
yep. And send an email once a week. Hey, here's an update.
Yeah.
Here's just a quick update
And
on what's going
that's-
on.
The email is like the CYA, even
Yep.
if you call them
Cover your end.
assets.
Yep. And it's covering your assets. So your seller's timeline. So the same thing, we went under contract on the 2nd of September. You're supposed to mark in the listing as a pending in the MLS. So you do have a couple days to do that.
What if they don't? For instance,
If you get turned in to the MLS can fine you.
Okay. There's
So
just- there's a
there
house
are,
that-
there are some times, it's really frustrating as an agent
Yeah,
to call or text an agent and say, hey, I want to show this listing, and they don't respond, And so you're trying to work with the buyer and you're telling them, hey, I'm trying to let them know. And then 3 days later, you find out, oh, it's under contract. And the buyer's like looking at you like, why didn't you know that?
Right.
And that's when you have to say, well, they didn't update it in the MLS. It's just a frustrating. It is totally a courtesy thing for the rest of your agents to put your thing into pending. Now, if a house is in pending and your buyer wants to look at it, ask the agent, hey, they still want to go look at it, it's pending. When's your due diligence period end? Because if anything goes, wrong, we want to be in backup position or whatever.
mhm.
So-
Period.
So on this one, the inspection period ends, this is your due diligence, so the 13th.
13, okay.
Yep. So from a seller standpoint, you're gonna mark the MLS system as pending. You're gonna wait for the inspection report from the listing agent. If it gets to 9/12 and you haven't gotten, and an inspection was done, and you suspect that there's been an issue, you better be in contact with that buyer's agent. Hey, do you have anything for address concerns? So you're gonna ask that. You don't want a cancellation of contract before that due diligence period to be a surprise. So if you suspect an issue or anything like that, make sure that you are in constant contact with that buyer's agent so that and let your seller know, hey, I think there may be a problem. I'm trying to find out for you. We're going to try to work through this, but there may be an issue. Sellers don't like surprises. If there is an issue and they have to we need to get the response to the sellers before the due diligence period ends. I had a seller actually say, well, let's just hold on to the response so I don't have to do it, and the due diligence will end. I said, no, if you do that, they're going to cancel the contract. Let's negotiate now, because why? Because we know that there's a known problem. We've received the inspection, and I'm going to have to disclose this. You're going to disclose this to the next buyer. Let's work through this. And it's just educating your sellers on that. Let them know when the appraisal has been scheduled. And when the appraiser has gone through, let the buyer's agent know, hey, the appraiser came through today, just FYI, let your lender know. Because a lot of times the appraisers don't tell the lenders that they already came out, and the buyer's agent is clueless. Another thing, they'll tell you, you can't interact with the appraiser. It's all supposed to be third party, arm's length. I always interact with the appraiser.
Yeah, when we refinanced the house we're in, I was there when the.
Mhm.
when they came
So
to
here's
do
what
the
I do.
appraisal.
Oh, the appraiser is going to reach out to you because you're the listing agent to set up through showing time or whatever. I make sure I have a packet for that appraiser. Here's all the upgrades of the house. Hey, Mr. Appraiser, I actually put this in a note. Hey, Mr. Appraiser, thank you so much for appraising this home. I'm sure you've already gotten the contract from the lender, but I'm sure they haven't given you this list of updates that have been done to the home. And I list, here's all the updates. And by the way, here's all the comps that I used to justify our list price. And I give them all the comps. 9 out of 10 appraisers are going to use all your comps if you've done your job right, that you've done it within the same school district, that they're within the radius, that the homes are 3.2, 3.2, or 6, whatever it is, right? If you've done a good job of your comps, the appraiser is going to use your comps, and you're not going to have an issue with your appraisal. So just be involved in the appraisal if you can. If there's a low appraisal, you're going to hear from, unless they've waived the appraisal contingencies, you can hear from it and go through negotiations on that. If you represent the listing agent or the sellers and you get a low appraisal, does that mean you instantly have to drop the price? No, renegotiate. The buyers may be willing to pay $10,000 over appraisal. Just because it wasn't in the contract doesn't mean you can't ask for it. Always try to get more money for your sellers. Put on your seller hat. And then before closing, You want to make sure that your sellers have arranged and they know they're moving out. And you should be involved in where they're moving to. Hopefully this is a domino transaction for you. If they're moving out of state, should you still be involved?
Yes.
Yeah, you should have referred him the agent. You can get a nice 25% referral on that. It's a great thing to do for your sellers. Then 24 hours before, make sure that you're reviewing the closing statements so that they have no surprises at that closing table. What do you mean I'm paying a 6% commission? Well, yes, that's what you signed. Remember, make sure that there's no surprises. What do you mean I'm paying for a home warranty? Remember, you said you wanted to offer a home warranty. We put it, here's in the contract, it's up to $500. You're going through all that before closing so that they sign on that line and that money gets transferred.
When you have a Repsy, is there an amount that they want to sell their house for as a seller? There's there an amount in there? What if, like you were saying, that they need to change the price because of appraisal? I thought there was a set amount in the Repsy.
So you can put in the addendums.
Put in there.
It all depends on you.
I mean, what do
And the
you
market.
do when you have a seller? Do you put that
If
in
I
there?
have a home that I know there may be a problem with the appraisal on it, I don't put that in the contract because I know that my buyers then are going to be alerted to that, hey, we may be able to renegotiate the price. I just work my rear end to try to find comps and list out all the benefits to hope and pray that that appraisal comes in. And I educate my seller and then I say, even if it doesn't come in, we're still going to ask, but be aware you could end up selling at this. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So it's just a education process through, and I've had that happen.
Now in a declining market, some are saying that the opposite. You'd have to make sure you protect your seller.
Yeah, you do. You need to protect your seller. So I've had some in a declining market where, I knew the appraisal would be fine, but I've had a seller say, there is no way I'm going under this price point. And so we put, appraisal, it has to come in within, buyer will pay $10,000 above appraisal if it comes in lower or whatever. There's different
Okay.
verbiage that you can get from Dean. Just make sure if you're putting in clauses like that verbiage has been reviewed by Dean.
Okay.
And a lot of times those clauses have already been developed by an attorney for KW that you can drop in.
Okay.
Because if you're doing above and under appraisal clause
Yeah.
in your contract, if you forget to put the below, it's not valid, even if you think it is. If they take it to court,
Oh.
you didn't give them a low point, you only gave them a high point. They can get out.
You always have to have a high and a low point.
On some contracts, that's why you want if you're putting in any special verbiage, send it to Dean and ask.
They have a lot of clauses in command, don't they, too?
Yes. And those clauses have been approved by the attorneys and by the brokers.
Okay.
So
So you don't
they're-
have to ask again if it's a.
If it's
approved
already
clause.
in there, just make sure that you're using verbatim, even if you don't think it sounds right. That's what that is. Any questions on that? So it goes back to all of, when are you asking for referrals? That's not up here. With sellers, when are you asking for referrals?
All the time.
Constantly throughout the transaction. Hey, we're under contract. Do you know of any of your neighbors that are looking to sell? Let them know how smooth this transaction has gone so far. Hey, the appraisal came in high. Don't ask for a referral then, because he's gonna be really mad at you.
Is it a problem getting our correct appraisals in a declining market because you don't have any sales? Is there a problem with that for appraisers?
No,
No, there's not? Oh, okay.
no,
I just want-
I have not run into that problem yet.
Oh, okay.
There's always comps. Our market is not rapidly declining.
No, I know that. It's just a small percent.
Yeah, we're not in 2008 land, thank heavens.
Okay, good.
Not
That never happens
even
again.
close to that.
You
all
must
right.
have been around then.
I was. And so, again, if you've done a good, congratulations, we're under contract.
Okay,
You've already done a lot of this. So you're communicating the deadlines, communication of the contract to the other parties. So the title company, you sent this to the title company, right? The contract, communication of list of recommendations. So they need to leave the house clean. When you work with your sellers, make sure you tell them, you need to leave the house free and clear of all debris and clean. Would you like a good cleaner? That's also, if you're making a ton of money on a deal, hey, let me get the house cleaned for you. That goes a long way. That is an easy $250. I don't mind spending
yeah.
because the referrals you get from that are huge.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Liz. Thanks so much. Because sellers are exhausted after
Yeah,
they
by the
move.
time you move all your crap, the
Yeah.
last thing you want to do is clean your old house.
Right, exactly. I don't want to clean my old house. I want it, so, oh, let me have it cleaned for you. I do that all the time. Make sure that if they're moving, I had one where, oh, my poor buyers, it was a domino transaction. They're moving into a house. The house they're moving into, they couldn't get into for 2 weeks. So what do you do with all your stuff? You don't want to move it twice.
Put it in storage.
That's moving it twice,
Well, yeah.
pods.
Oh, pods. But
So
that's
we
still not
found,
moving it twice.
well, no, you're moving it in just like a truck and
Oh,
they're
then
delivering
you're
it and
moving
then
it out,
you're
you're
moving
right,
it out.
yeah.
Otherwise, you're loading that stuff twice.
Yeah, you're right.
You're so try to find a solution for them. So we were able to get 2 trailers for them from friends. It was so funny. And we loaded them up and put them in front of another friend's lot. And so everything is stored there because they did not have the money to do pods, because pods is actually pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But help them find a solution and they will love you forever and they'll refer people. You've already sent the contract to the title company. You did that because you sent out your original. Scheduling and communication with the inspectors and the buyer's agent, you guys are already doing that. Make sure that you've sent amendments, inspection reports, all of that stuff to the, don't send the inspection report ever to the lender when you're on the buyer side, by the way. I don't know why that's on there. It doesn't need to go to title either, but the amendments do, any
But if
contract
you're
does.
on the seller side, do you send the inspection report? No. It never goes to the lender.
Never goes to the lender.
Okay.
If you ever want to screw up your deal, send an inspection report to a lender. It's true. I did not do it. I had an agent who I was mentoring in Georgia do that. I was like, why'd you do that? Oh, I just thought everything. I said, I told you not to do that. But it was, I said, oh my gosh. And sure enough, the underwriter got it and said, oh, the roof really should be repaired. Roof didn't need repairing. It had 1 shingle that was up. And so it was just a disaster. We got it fixed, but it was a disaster. Don't ever send an inspection report to a lender. Is this an act of communication or documentation? Again, just cover your assets, CYA, to whom and from whom, or, what's going on there, what's the best pathway or communication is sending. That's a big one too. So if you are working with the younger generation, 18 to 29, they may only text. So send them the PDF and text, ask them, but make sure you just have documentation that you've done it. But I would also say, hey, can I email this to you? And here's what I tell my younger buyers. I have to make sure legally, from a law standpoint, from Utah regulations on real estate agents, that I can show that I have sent this to you. So do you mind, even if you never open it, can I email this to you? And they go, oh yeah, go ahead, but I don't open email. Okay, that's all right. So I send an email and I send a text. It's not a big deal. What's the plan for follow-up after the document has been sent to the responsible party? I sent a text, hey, sent you an email. If you didn't get it, let me know. Are there templates? Yes, command. And other agents are happy to help you with this stuff too. The biggest key, I don't know if you, I'm sure you guys are hearing it. What is your biggest key to help you make a smooth transaction? It's the first thing that you do. I gave you copies of them.
The communication on the,
Communication, the very beginning of sending them the binding contract, because it has all the key dates and everything else. And that triggers everything. So it also gives you a point. So I print these out. I'm old fashioned. I print these out. I put them in the folder that I have for them. Or I will star, I'm trying to get away from paper. I'll star that email in their folder. I have every transaction is a separate folder in my email. I'll star that so I can go back to it to make sure that I'm not missing any key dates as well. I'll go back and go, where am I in this transaction? If I have any questions, and it's like, okay, yeah, here's that I have. Or if they text me and have a question, I go back to the folder. Hey, here it is. Let me email it to you again. So they say, they can see, hey, I've given you this. You're not saying, oh, I already gave that to you. Oh, let me forward the email again. So that you have that and can give it to you. So it's pretty easy. So there's the seller's timeline again. Do you guys have any questions on that? Anything?
Could we go over it real quick one more time? Is that a bad thing to
Sure.
ask?
No, that's fine. So it's not on there, but you've gone under contract on the 2nd of September.
Okay.
The first thing that you do before you even mark that listing as pending in the MLS is you take your template of communication with all the key dates and you send that to your seller. Then you forward that to the title company so that the contract is to the title company. Then you go ahead and mark in the MLS as pending. And now, if you have an offer that is sketchy, mark it as backup, that you're looking for backup offers. And that way, if someone is really interested in the house, they're going to say, hey, we want to go look at this house because it says backup. There's a possibility that transaction won't go through. So there's different options for you in the MLS system.
Okay.
You're going to let your seller know that when the inspection is going to be scheduled. You don't want your seller to be home during the inspection,
Okay.
but if they have to be because they work from home, just ask them not to interfere in the inspection. And let the inspector know or the agent know, hey, my seller is going to be home because he works from home and he cannot leave. He'll be in his office, but he is not going to interfere with your inspection.
Okay.
And you should be fine. And then let your seller know if you're going to be home, they're going to turn on your air conditioning unit. They're going to turn on your heater. They're going to turn on your dishwasher. They're going to go through your house with a fine tooth comb. Stay in your office.
don't come out.
Don't come out. If they have a problem with it, you're going to negotiate with, of course, your seller with the inspection report and give them the response of what you will and will do. Now, if a buyer is coming to your seller with a bunch of nitpicky, oh, there's a switch that's cracked and they want it replaced, go pack sand. That's my response. I mean, I don't say that to the buyer's agent, but I tell my seller, yeah, that's something we don't have to do. And so when I give the response back, I say, we're willing to do 1 and 3. The others are under $100 and they can do it their own time. If it's a problem and if it's a deal breaker, let me know. It's something that I will do. I'm not going to burden my seller with that.
Yeah.
That's
Let's be realistic. It's a
be
used
realistic.
house.
Exactly.
It's
You're
like a
not,
used car.
you're not buying a new, new
Right.
construction, right? But there are some agents that will send you an inspection report and say, we want everything addressed. And I go, I know.
A punch list, like new construction?
Mhm. Yeah, it's like, oh, no, you need to bring your buyers into reality.
So when you said 1 to 3 things, is that kind of what you're looking at as far as small repairs, 1 to 3, then anything under 100, you're,
No, I just look at it and I say, are any of these things major? Are they gonna interfere with marketing the house to someone else? Those are the things that I'll fix. But if there's a big hole in the carpet, they knew that. And I tell my sellers, you're probably gonna have to replace that.
okay.
They'll
When it
be
of
aware.
course, you document that, of
Yeah,
course.
well, I don't doc that. I told my sellers that. It's really not a place to document that. You have to be
Oh.
really careful when you take listings,
Oh, okay.
not to be coming across as you're covering your rear end that you're
you're helping
helping
them.
them, but you just want them to let them know, hey, you have a huge hole in your walkway. You're
Oh.
more than likely gonna have to replace that.
Okay. can I
And
give
if
them
they
another
ask
advice?
for a replacement, let's do it when you move.
Okay,
Let's plan on you moving out 2 days before closing and have the carpet company. So just have that in the back of your mind that this
Okay.
might happen.
okay.
It's just working with your sellers to
Okay.
make sure that you have that. You want to know when the appraisal is going to be there. They can be there during the appraisal. That's not a big deal. If there's if there's a discrepancy with a low appraisal, you're going to worry about that. 24 hours before closing, you're going to review that settlement statement with them. And then you're going to close. And you're going to make sure that they've moved out and have taken all of their stuff with it. You do not want to be the agent who has to pull up in your truck to remove things out of a garage because your seller left a bunch of garbage. Because the buyer's agent will call you and say, remove the garbage. And you should. Hmm?
You
Mm-hmm,
do that.
mm-hmm. And I've been really mad at some of my sellers,
Oh, yeah.
but you bite your tongue and you do it.
I know of a person, I don't want to get personal, but this is my own family, he didn't understand it. All these junk cars were still there when the buyer came in that day, they drove in, settlement happened, everything.
Oh, yeah, that's a nightmare. It is a nightmare yeah. And they'll usually, if you do your walkthroughs, that'll be addressed before closing. But there are some people who don't do walkthroughs for some reason. Don't be that agent.
I know, why wouldn't they want to do a block?
Because some agents are lazy. Command opportunities, everything is integrated, which is awesome. End to end through the cloud. And so you're probably not super familiar with Command yet if you just started with KW, but use it as your database. It is awesome. It will help track you through things. It'll tell you what tasks you have coming on if you set them in there as well. It's great. And then DocuSign, you can pull all of your signed documents in, it'll upload them and you can go from there. There's actually a Command training class that KW Westfield does. I don't know when it is, but if you ask Molly, I know, or if you ask,
Write that down, I need a class.
is it Hunter?
Yes.
Yeah, ask him. He can connect you to who you need to know for Command because Command is actually awesome. I sort of went kicking. I was with KW when they launched Command. And I was like, I'm not leaving my current database because it takes a lot to get your databases going in real estate.
For sure.
It was a hard port over. It was very difficult. And so I went kicking and screaming and now I'm quite happy with it. So, but it just took a while. So take advantage of it when you first start your
Okay.
career. So you don't
Okay,
have to port over.
I need to take a command class and an MLS class.
Yeah, make sure you take your MLS. Any ahas that you guys have?
Ahas.
Aha.
You've given us plenty of ahas.
One big one for me is that you gave the appraiser a list of upgrades and a copy of all the comps. I think that is brilliant.
Yeah, they'll take 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won't know a lot of the upgrades that the buyer, or I mean, the seller has done.
Yeah.
So I think that's, yeah. that was my
Especially if
thought.
they've upgraded systems.
Yeah,
If it has a new HVAC system, that's 10 grand. And
Okay.
I list it. Here you go. It has a new HVAC system. It has a new roof. It has new carpet. It has this, it has that. It has this, it has that. I just list it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it all, it all equals out. And a lot of times, sometimes, you're going up against some newer houses. But if you have a remodel, you need benefit from that remodel.
Almost makes you wonder why we need appraisals. I mean, agents are so plugged into values.
Appraisers?
No, I mean, agents are. I mean, it makes you wonder why you need appraisers. But I realize.
Because there's some there's some really bad agents out there. I'm telling you now.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah.
That's fine.
And be a full-time agent. Invest in yourself and be a full-time agent. Be all in. Because if you're all in, then you know what's going on with the values and you start to learn, okay, here's this offer and they have this lender. Okay, I really have to bird dog this. And I need to tell my seller, hey, if we accept this offer, we're really going to have to bird dog the lender. And we may have a delay in closing. They're using Rocket Mortgage. But, it's different things. The longer that you're in it, the more benefit that you can give your clients. And that's what it's about. But your contract to close, if you do all those steps, and there's a lot of little steps that even Ignite didn't list on there because it's different in every market. But follow your UPSI. And if your clients know all the deadlines, then you're going to make it to, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to have a smooth transaction at the end. But, and the other thing is, don't wait till the day before to call your title company and say, when are we going to schedule? Because title companies have lots of closings. You can get bumped.
Mhm.
You don't want that. You want everyone to be your friend in your transaction. I love the fact that my title company, she'll call me and go, hey, there's an issue with this, just wanted to give you a heads up. Or, hey, I just spoke to the other title company and they're having issues with this, just want to give you a heads up. Or, hey, we are totally ready. I've received everything from the lender early. Do you want to close early? I've had that happen. So, hey, it's great to do early closings if the people can get out or close early.
Yeah, why not?
Yep. And then once you are closed in Command, like I said, you're gonna upload, the settlement statements are gonna be sent to the administrative staff here at KW Westfield, but you still have to upload that acknowledgement of receipts. And again, how I do that and how they've accepted that, so I don't cause a lot of questions with my clients, is I mark down everything that I sent initial and then put in the note, I have email receipts of sending these documents, and I sign it, I attach that in there, and I submit for my commission. And then a lovely little check comes in. And when you get agent of the month, it's a really big check.
Yeah.
Which is really good. I know, it was my last day too. I was like, I am using this.
Yeah, I was
My
like,
last
Awesome.
day.
Uh,
I
You're
told them
what?
if I get it again, they have to double the size of the trophy.
You are.
I have no problem with that. Isn't that funny? Like, ah. All right, so we already did today's agenda. So best practices, risk and avoidance. We did timelines. So best practice and risk and avoidance, that's really easy. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Set expectations up front, making sure that you're documenting everything. And just remember, this isn't about you. Maintain your professionalism throughout. If you make your business not about you, you will be 10 times more successful. I promise you that. Oops. Let me go back. I clicked one too many times, sorry. There you go. Risk avoidance is all about being proactive. So is there any risk? Do you know that it's going to be a bad inspection? When you guys start doing this a long time, you'll be able to walk through a house and go, ooh, we're going to have some inspection issues with this. Address it then with your seller. Hey, have you thought about fixing this? If not, be aware this will show up on an inspection. I just want to help you out. And sometimes they don't know. They're not real estate professionals. Sometimes you just say, hey, it would be good for you to do X, Y, and Z before we put it on the market. Take the listing and put it in pending, off market until it's ready to show. Take the listing, don't wait. And work with them. Ask, if you don't have a good electrician, ask someone here in the office, who's your go-to electrician? Collect your vendor list. You should be the go-to for everything real estate. It's really easy, and that helps with avoiding risk as well. And then what are best practices to keep the deal alive? Communicate, communicate, communicate. Document, document, document. That's really what that is. Be the fiduciary. Yep. Always act in your client's best interest, even when it seems to conflict with your own. Live with W14C2 TES. Does anybody know what that means?
Nope.
That's what no one means.
The W14C2 TES.
No,
I'll have to look it up real quick. It's a Keller Williams acronym. It's one of our value statements. I should know it. Here, let me find it. There it is. It's our belief system. It says win, or no deal. Integrity, do the right thing. Customers always come first. Commitment in all things. Communicate. Seek first to understand. Creativity, ideas before results. Teamwork, together everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty, and the last S is success results through people. You can Google it. It's all over the place.
Okay.
But each one stands. So win-win, integrity, customers, commitment, communication, creativity, teamwork, trust, and success. Welcome to KW. Then go back to slideshow, make it easier for you guys and me. One click. Any more ahas? Shouldn't be. Any questions, you guys?
Would you be willing to share your,
Yes, if you guys want to take a picture
yeah.
Yes. yes.
of these, you can, and you'll notice it shows my attachments.
Oh, good.
So these are just closed bills, but you can sort of customize them for yourself. So if you want to take a picture of that and then create your own email, you can. I'm happy to share that. That's the seller one, and then the buyer one is underneath. Referrals and reviews. So reviews, do you have to wait till it closes to get a review? No. If things are going super, super solid and you know you're closing, you got to clear to close and go, ask for the review. Get your Google review, get your wherever you put your reviews. And ask for your referrals throughout the process. So when I left Georgia, 100% of my business was based off of referrals.
Wow.
So I would have people call and say, hey, do you want to buy leads? I have leads. I was too busy. I was like, nope, I'm good with just my referrals. I didn't have to pay, which is awesome. It saves you a lot of money. So
Georgia, did you live from?
I was about 35 minutes north of Atlanta.
Okay.
So still have a ton of friends there, which is awesome. So repeat, take advantage of all the opportunities to earn your unfair share. I don't like it when they say your unfair share, because it is your fair share. If you are doing an awesome killer job, there's no reason why you shouldn't have more share than someone else who isn't doing their fair
Why
share.
they say that?
Hmm?
Why they said unfair?
Well, it's sort of a play on words. So you should be doing more business than anyone else. And they say that's unfair because
Oh,
everyone should be doing business, but not everyone should be doing business. Only the really people who are out there killing it should be. You're doing their job. So repeat business, referral business, client reviews, you should be asking your lenders. I used to get referrals from my lender because I gave him so much businesses. I finally said, hey, Micah, this was in Georgia. I've sent you 30 clients in the last 2 months. Where's my referrals? He goes, you know what? I have a friend who's about to buy a house. Let me call him and tell him he has to use you. He sent me an investor who ended up buying 15 properties from me. That was a lender referral.
wow,
It was like, yeah, I was like, killer. That was worth it.
wow.
All I did was ask, hey, I've given you all these people. You need to give me one. And the one he gave me was killer. Yeah, Kate and Spades. Now I need that to happen here in Utah. Every conversation we've talked about that throughout the transaction with your buyer and seller. Of course, at the close of the transaction. At the close of the transaction, I always say, hey, do you have 2 or 3 friends who are thinking of selling or buying or investing in real estate? Can you give me their name and number? I will tell them that you referred me. That's what I ask. And sometimes they go, oh, let me think about it. Okay. And then I follow up. Hey, do you have anybody? Hey, do you have anybody? Hey, it's your local real estate expert again. It's me. I want your business. It's all about repeat referrals and reviews. We already talked about that. Any ahas? All lenders have people they send to, you just gotta find out. Post-close follow-up. So this one's big, making sure that in command, you're doing your follow-ups. So you want to make sure you're sending out thank you cards. You want to put them on a touch point. That's going to generate referrals. Also, it's awesome to sell a home that you sold, to list a house that you sold. It's a really good feeling that in like 3 or 4 years, that buyer that you had is decided to move up. And so you list and sell their house. Or even in 2 years, all of a sudden they get transferred. Stay in touch with them so that I can't tell you how many people listing wise where I would go in and after I signed the agreement, don't do this before, after I signed the agreement, I'd say, who did you buy this house from? Oh, so-and-so. I said, why didn't you call them? Oh, I didn't even think about it. I haven't talked to her for years. Oh,
Mhm.
and you just gave up $50,000.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. Make sure you stay in touch. Co-agent follow-up. Build your business. Bring them over to KW. If they're awesome, bring them over to KW. I would not recommend the lady who screwed me on the Hispanic loan. I don't want her in KW. Don't bring her over. If you didn't enjoy working with them, don't bring them over. If you did, bring them over. And it was so funny the other day, there was an agent from ERA. She sent me an open house opportunity. She goes, one of our agents just got sick. No one in our office can cover. Do you want to do this open house?
Wow.
I said, did you send this to the right person? This is Liz from KW. And she goes, yeah, I know it's you. She goes, I just thought I would throw it your way. I wish I could have done it. It was on a $1.2 million listing.
Wow.
It's like, I'm at a different one. I can't do it. And she's like, okay. But I was like, okay, that's totally cool. So have those kind of relationships where they refer stuff to you as well. And then there's a couple of agents that I work with in KW that I'm like, I personally don't like open houses. But they work really well for some people. And so the people that really do a great job at open houses, I'll call them and go, hey, I just took it in a listing. When can you do an open house for me? And that's a great relationship to be able to have. Yeah, it's an awesome thing to do. Any other ahas? No? Okay. Did you guys learn anything, hopefully?
Oh, yeah. Ton.
Good.
You're
Okay.
great, you're
I
great.
guess.
I think
the
you-
biggest aha is what is supposed to happen
Yeah.
in between like acceptance and closing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got to have your hands all in that. And if you're not a really organized person, make sure you're using a transaction coordinator to help you out. Who can keep you on top of it, and tell your transaction coordinator, be honest with them. Hey, I'm not that organized, or I've got a ton going on. Can you remind me, help me as well? And they will. You're paying for that. Yeah. And that's okay. There's been times, especially when I was moving, in the middle of the move, I had a closing the day before we were supposed to move. And I was like, there is no freaking way I'm gonna be able to stay on top of this. But I wanted to, and everyone was like, oh, don't worry about it. You're moving. You're not gonna, you kidding? I get referrals from Georgia. Hey, Liz, I need someone we're moving to Las Vegas. Oh, let me find you an agent. You don't have to do anything to make money.
You get up to 25%.
Yeah, 25%, exactly. Or my kids moved. Oh, let me find you an agent, 25%. Well, I don't take that 25%. It goes to their closing costs. It's a gift from mom. So you want to, so I was like, okay, I need a transaction coordinator. I was like, you're going to have to do it all.
Yeah.
I said, I am leaving. You're going to have to do it all. She's like, oh, that's fine. And so she'd remind me, she goes, hey, Liz, did you send the text? Okay, let me send the text. Like, thank you. So just utilize your team. We've got great transaction coordinators here. So, but if you stay on top of it, if you know your key dates, if you're a you need to hear a visual person, get yourself a whiteboard. Here's key dates. Just put the address or your client name, key dates.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And so you see it and you go, okay, have I done something? What do I need to do? And be done with it.
Okay.
And when you do that as well, there's nothing better than walking into an office if you're visual and you have a whiteboard and you have like 10 closings and you have all these key dates and you first go, and then you go, this is so awesome. Everything works in your system.
Yeah.
And then you make a lot of money, which is really awesome. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Besides helping people. But then you get to help people with that money.
Yeah.
That's what I think is really cool too. So. KW Cares. When you go and you command and you do your commissions, you request your commissions, give them $10 from that closing. You are not going to miss $10,
Yeah.
but that $10 goes a long way for KW Cares, and they do a ton of good. So it's really, really worth it. Because especially when you're in a team meeting at the end of the year and they show that KW Cares number and you go, hey, I was part of that. Even if it's $10, you were part of that. And if you didn't, you sort of go, oh, wow, everyone else gave so much. Don't be that person.
Great.
Right? Let's see, there's tons of tools in command. You guys have accountability partners. There's, success systems. There's everything. You guys already have all this stuff. Appointments, agreements, closings. You guys should be working on that stuff. Any other questions? I think we are right at, we're 11:26, got 4 minutes. Whoop, whoop.
Good job.
You said one word now. Now it's escaping me. Somebody to help you or
A transaction coordinator,
no, it was something else. Just recently.
accountability partner.
Accountability partner. What's that?
What is that?
Yeah.
You need to find someone in this room or a mentor at KW Westfield that will hold you accountable to do your calls and set your
Oh,
appointments
like a
and
team coach like Riley. Or-
yes,
Oh, okay. I guess I
Yes.
got one.
there you go.
So I guess that's my coach, right?
Yeah, I would go up to him. If you've got Riley, I'd go up to him and say, accountability coach, what do I need to be doing?
Oh, okay.
Review stuff with them. Are you guys reviewing weekly stuff with your coaches and all that?
No, not really.
You need to.
You have to do certain things like leading up to it, so you have to go to like these classes and training and stuff. And then you get like one-on-one coaching with him. And then, yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah.
They do. They hold you accountable. It's just sort of awesome. Oh, I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution and people are happy to be in relationship with me. So that, yeah. So even when you're in I'm just gonna be blatantly honest. In real estate, you guys are gonna come across some really, really awesome people. And then you're gonna come across a few turds. Treat the turds nice. Even if they're turds, because everything comes around in spades. And even if you're having a really bad day, let a co-agent know, hey, I'm having a really bad day today. I can't get to this. I just want to let you know that I can't get to it because I'm swamped, or my kids had this, or my husband's done this, or whatever it is. Just communication is the key. If you're upfront and honest with people, it's awesome. And you
It's
never
all
know.
about setting the expectation.
Yeah, set the expectation, let them know. And if you treat people kindly, and if you're having that off day, I've had the off day where the agent goes, Liz, you're just not yourself today. I go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And they go, no, you're not rude. You're just abrupt. You just to the point. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. This is what's going on. And they go, oh, hey, you know what? He is a car mechanic. He can help you out with that. And it's like, oh, thanks so much. And it was just because you're nice. Just be nice. Just be nice to people. The world needs more nice people instead of turds. So there's a lot of turds out there. All right. Well, I guess you guys are, have you guys been doing this? Role model, role play stuff? Grab a partner one of these days and do scripts. Have you guys been doing scripts? Have you done scripts yet? in Ignite?
Yeah, I haven't.
Not yet. Do scripts. We're out of time. I will challenge you guys on this, though, on your contacts. Contact at least today, 15 people in your sphere. Hey, I'm in real estate. Who do you know? Help me out and see what happens. Oh, I don't have anybody. Think about it and let me know. I'm your person. They say, oh, I have somebody. I know, but if you haven't worked with that person for a while, give me a try. And see what happens. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Your friends and family should be there to help you out. And if family says, oh, I just don't like doing business with family, go, oh, why not? And have them tell you why not. I had a sister said, I don't want to do business with family. And I laughed and I said, so when I buy things from your company, because she owns a company, am I doing business with you? And she goes, well, that's different. I said, how's that different? I'm putting bread on your table. This is what I do professionally. Let me show you my ratings. She had no idea. She doesn't follow me. She's like, she's like, what? And I said, and then I said, hey, did you know that was the agent of the month? And she goes, you were? Guess what? She just sent me a deal.
Oh, awesome.
I know, never would do business with family. Now all of a sudden, oh, because she doesn't follow me because I'm her baby sister. You know, it's like,
Give them a strip club with her.
I have no street cred, right? My own sister. You're just my baby sister. And she did. She goes, you know, I just remember, every time I look at you, you're just like my baby 12-year-old sister. I don't think of you as a responsible adult. And I'm like, okay, I'm actually more responsible than you. But, you know, you just have to remind them and even sell your family, because your family sometimes will see you as the baby sister, and you don't want them to see you as baby sister in a real estate transaction. You want them to see you as, hey, I'm the best agent out there. Let me help you out.
Yeah.
Just remind them. So if you guys have problems with your family, just say, hey, look, here's my creds. Give me a try.
So here's my problem. I have two sisters that are real estate agents.
Are they with KW? Bring them over. Create a group.
Okay, one is married to Stephen Eldridge. So he
Yeah.
gives her lots of, referrals.
Yeah,
And the other one's up in Eden.
that's okay. Create a small group. Get them over to KW and then you'll get paid for all the transactions.
Don't think I haven't thought about that.
Hey, I'll take you to lunch once a month. On your money. Nothing wrong with that.
But that's where the family part comes in tricky. For me,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's okay. I have a brother who is he's a developer and a builder, and he always says, I don't need real estate agents. I'm like, okay, but then he'll come to me and ask me contract questions. Like, well, I thought you didn't need real estate agents.
right.
I know, right? Yeah,
I'll have to charge you.
I know. I need to charge you. I need to charge you more money.
Attorneys, they charge too.
Yeah,
You
as
ever
I
charge
told
me
him,
that?
I did say that at one point. I said, I had just saved you a huge attorney bill. I said, so you need to list one of your properties with me. He hasn't done it yet, but I'm getting there. It's funny.
Okay,
All right, go
Thank you
forth
so
and
much.
conquer the world.
Well, are we like considered graduated?
I guess we're done, yeah.
Is today your last one?
Yeah. This is our last
Really?
one.
This is our last one.
I feel like I need to call it.
I know, same.
I think we need to
I'm gonna have to
repeat.
start over again.
I think we'll have to start over again.
Well, take a look at, anytime you see training stuff, if there's stuff that you want to refresh on, especially with Ignite, drop in on the class.
Yeah.
There's no, you can always, don't ever hesitate to go into a training class.
So there was an agent that came in a couple of trainings ago, Greg.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just wanted a refresher and,
Mhm.
Oh,
I love Ignite. I still have my Ignite book.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
has this been recorded for use on KW?
I think so. I don't know.
Oh, okay, for later on use on KW's
I think so.
education stuff.
So I.
I don't know how to stop recording. Ryan's doing it.
So I've been to a